Also done commendable work, as we have heard, in establishing the National Research Database of Zimbabwe. The database is an online repository of research information accessible to all and sundry. I commend the Research Council's effort in coming up with this useful tool, as its full utilization will strengthen collaborative linkages among researchers and even beyond our borders. I therefore urge all our researchers and overseas researchers also to deposit some of their works on Zimbabwe into this database. In conclusion, Madam Chair, it is my hope that the outcome of this workshop will form a firm foundation on which the Research Council of Zimbabwe can build future action plans that will yield positive results within the context of the implementation of the ZIM asset. On this note, it now gives me pleasure to declare this workshop officially open. I thank you.
Wow, we heard it from the highest office in the land, the support for research and development. I want to thank you very much, Chief Secretary, for your very encouraging remarks. I believe that with the support of your office, Zimbabwe will go far. I don't want to repeat what you said, but I do think it's important to highlight certain things that came out from your presentation. The first thing that I understood is that research and development is at the forefront of everything. The development of a country actually comes from the research that is being done within that country, and the ability to utilize research that has been done elsewhere for the benefit of the country. But before you can do that, you need to increase the institutional capacity, and particularly in the case of resources, the human resource factor. We need to improve the capacity of our human resources. And then we need the finance in order for us to improve in terms of our research capacity. The Chief Secretary made reference to the importance of education in maths and science, but he emphasized that we must not look at learned helplessness. We gather all these degrees, diplomas, etc., but they're not useful in terms of improving our country. So I think for me, this is a very important message. Let's learn things that actually we can utilize for the benefit of our country. The Chief Secretary also talked about not doing research as an end to itself. In other words, let's really prioritize and let's look at what's required. And he went further to give us direction in terms of where we should be going. And I just want to touch on a few of those. The food and nutrition sector, the issues of climate change, how we need to improve the yields of our crops, and how we need to also broaden the crops that we consume. He talked about a healthy nation. We need to do something to ensure that we enjoy the benefits of the research that's being done within the country. Issues of environmental interventions, for example, invasive weeds. What are we doing as Zimbabweans in order to take care of that? And he even said we can go so far as to make use of the invasive weeds for the benefit of Zimbabwe. Renewable energy. I'm sure all of you have been suffering greatly in the last few weeks in terms of access to energy, shall we say. And what are we doing as a country in order for us to stop being so dependent on the one form of energy? So these are things that as a country we need to be looking at. Issues of intellectual property rights. So many Zimbabweans, great ideas, but what are we doing to protect the intellectual property? And then he finally commended the Research Council for some of the work that they have done. But this work has been because of your contributions, and we can only urge that Zimbabweans continue to work together in order for us to achieve in the various areas. Thank you very much, Chief Secretary. I feel highly inspired after your speech, and I hope that the rest of the attendants also feel the same way. Now I want to move to our next guest, who is representing the Minister of Finance and Economic Development. He's currently the Principal Director responsible for national budgets. I would like to invite Mr. Churu to give us his address on behalf of the Minister of Finance and Economic Development. Mr. Churu.
Allow me to express my profound appreciation to the Research Council of Zimbabwe for organizing this important workshop. Research and development initiatives are central to the sustainable development of world economies. So, as Zimbabwe, we need to promote R&D in view of the huge socio-economic benefits that will accrue to the country. The subject of R&D is too broad, and there is high risk that an attempt to cover everything will not take us anywhere. It is against this background that I'll focus my presentation on the following areas: relationship between R&D and innovation, research and development in Zimbabwe, and constraints to R&D efforts. I'll also highlight some of government's efforts towards supporting R&D as I go through these issues. I start with the relationship between R&D and innovation. Research and development efforts result in new ways of doing business, new products, processes, and knowledge, amongst others. It is equally important to note that R&D innovations should be correctly contextualized and interpreted for the benefit of the delegates, industry, and the nation at large. Breakthrough innovation, radical innovation, disruptive innovation, and incremental innovation are some of the most common forms of innovation that have been widely celebrated over the world over. Let me hasten to say that failure to recognize the kind of innovation that you are targeting can have serious ramifications for the economy. Empirics seem to suggest that incremental innovation has been the most dominant innovation. You can pick up on any successful company and try to understand how they came up with new products, distribution channels, and production techniques, and the evidence is clear. Ladies and gentlemen, I strongly feel that as a country, we need to focus on high-impact R&D areas, given our limited financial resources. Research and development efforts in Zimbabwe, a historical perspective. Madam Chairperson, research and development efforts should transcend all sectors of the economy. That is agriculture, mining, manufacturing, health, education, tourism, and financial services, amongst others. We've had some commendable efforts in the past, following new innovations, particularly in the agricultural sector. We've seen new crop varieties, including drought-resistant and high-yield varieties, while current efforts are targeted at faster maturing seed varieties. I would want to acknowledge work by the Department of Research and Specialist Services, DRSS, the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center, CIMMYT, the Scientific and Industrial Research and Development Center, SIRDC, the University of Zimbabwe, the Biotechnology Research Institute, and Kutsaga Research Station, amongst others in the agricultural sector. Technological developments have seen major innovations in many sectors of the economy. This has seen the financial, health, education, and tourism sectors introducing electronic-based distribution channels for their products, such as e-banking, electronic bill settlement, e-learning, e-health, amongst others. This development has gone a long way in promoting inclusive development. Government values R&D initiatives that touch on the lives of ordinary Zimbabweans. Therefore, would like to encourage future R&D efforts to be biased towards such areas because they have got a high impact on people's lives. Our call for more research and development in other sectors. We have got the infrastructure and in courts, but the entrepreneurial spirit or commercial drive seems to be lacking. Notwithstanding the huge opportunities in the mining sector, the country continues to rely on raw mineral commodity exports. We are therefore calling upon research experts to come up with new technologies in exploration, mining, and mineral processing. There is need for R&D aimed at enhancing the quality of mineral commodities, reducing adverse environmental and social footprints, and transforming the economy through value addition and beneficiation. In the manufacturing sector, R&D is expected to result in increased supply of locally produced goods and services against a backdrop of imported products flooding the local market. Currently, the country is spending significant resources on imports, and I would expect members of the Research Council of Zimbabwe to play a leading role in promoting R&D that will help revolutionize our manufacturing sector. Let me also highlight that the economic landscape has hugely changed over the years. Small and medium enterprises have become the engines of growth. Therefore, closely working with this emerging sector is important if the Council's R&D efforts are to benefit our people. An appreciation of the special circumstances of this sector is essential to highlight high-impact research efforts. Research institutes should work closely with the industry in order to commercialize their research output. I now turn to constraints to research and development efforts. Madam Chairperson, just like any other activity, R&D efforts are constrained by a number of factors, and these include the following: lack of clear focus of the end game, financial and human resources, and fear of technological imitation. Lack of clear focus of the end game. It is a fact that success is jealous of scattered efforts. To this end, lack of focus on what the research intends to produce has a huge negative impact on the success of any research effort. Working closely with commercial entities will help focus research efforts. This is an area that may need to be revisited. Financial and human resources. The issue of resources remains important. It can be a genuine excuse or just a scapegoat. And he has got an exclamation mark. Given the country's limited financial resources, budgetary support remains limited. I am aware of the regional benchmarks that are furnished in various source documents. In Africa, it is recommended that 1% of the country's GDP should go towards R&D. In order to circumvent financial challenges, government has come up with a number of measures that include promoting joint venture partnerships. The joint venture bill is currently before Parliament. To date, Cabinet has approved a JV concept for state-owned universities and other tertiary institutions. The JV partner can capacitate research laboratories amongst other critical infrastructure. In terms of skills, While Zimbabwe is ranked among top countries with high literacy rates in Africa, my view is that more is required to promote entrepreneurial, technical, and vocational skills. To this end, recommendations by the Ramasanga Commission should be embraced in our curriculum. Government remains committed to supporting R&D efforts. I would also want to implore the private sector to partake in this important game. We will explore appropriate fiscal incentives for high-impact R&D efforts. Fear of technological imitation. Madam Chairperson, research and development output is a public good. It is in light of this that the private sector may find it unattractive to expend private sources on R&D. In principle, the social rate of return on R&D investment tends to more than outweigh the private rate of return. This is a challenge that needs to be addressed in order to attract private resources into R&D. Protection of intellectual property rights is an important area that government will continue to enhance. We'll also be promoting some educational programs in this area because people may be withholding potentially life-changing ideas because they are not sure whether they will benefit from their ideas. The benefit of a robust intellectual property rights policy are huge. We need this to promote R&D, boost investor confidence, and attract foreign direct investment. In conclusion, Madam Chairperson, let me reiterate government's commitment to supporting R&D. Over the years, government has opened new universities and public institutions in order to promote R&D. I would want to call upon those men and women who have been mandated to drive the R&D efforts on behalf of our great people to step up the country's research efforts. We would want to see commercial products coming out of our research and development efforts. Let us not forget the various forms that R&D may take. I would want to encourage collaboration between industry and research institutions. Why should Zimbabwe be a market for other countries when we have highly educated people? Government stands ready to support